All right, and welcome to our Tuesday's weekly program, the Legal Tuesday. I hope you are doing fine, and this is our weekly Legal Matters program, whereby we bring you various topics that can be able to enlighten you on legal matters, and therefore, welcome again to our program today. Today, we are talking about the debt recovery laws, whereby, for example, you have a debt somewhere, and you are unable to pay that debt, and maybe your debtor need to collect that debt. And therefore, how do we go about it in a legal way is what we shall be talking about this morning. And therefore, welcome about. If you have any question regarding to the debt recovery laws, you're most welcome. You can post your question even as early as now on 23814. That is our ordinary SMS number, and then WhatsApp number is 0721 105 and 105. And today we are asking you one question, that where are people's rights infringed during debt recovery? Where are people's rights infringed during debt recovery? You can text maybe your comment on 23814. or 0721 105 105. That is on our WhatsApp number. And today we have Mr. Benjamin Silla, who is from the Legacy Auctioneering Services, who is going to help us to maybe put more perspective on this matter, to understand more on debt recovery laws. Once again, we are reminding you that you can also respond to this question. Where are people's rights infringed during debt recovery? Through our post SMS number 23814 or our WhatsApp SMS number 0721 105 105. My name is Paul Kagi. Welcome about. As usual, my colleague Mangicho Mola is in the house, my legal friend. How are you?
Yes, it's good to see you, Kagi, and welcome from your sabbatical. Hoping you had a great one.
Yes, I had, sure.
Yeah, and of course, just as you've pointed out, we are set in again for yet another edition of the Legal Tuesday, where we enlighten our audience on various areas which are related to legal matters or legal issues. And of course, today, just as you've pointed out, we have a very, very important topic and area to cover. Of course, maybe people have always heard about auctioneers. Some people get terrified when they hear the word auctioneers and what happens maybe when auctioneers come into your doorstep. So these are some of the things that we need to highlight, and we need to inform of our people. We get to know how they operate, we get to understand your rights, we get to understand your obligations, your duties, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be very enlightening, and we believe our guest, Bwana Benjamin Silla from the Legacy Auctioneering Services, will be very, very pivotal and very resourceful in this particular program, Kagi.
All right, and I hope Mangicho, as we talk about the issue of debt recovery, is very, very key, because you find big percent of our audience, or maybe public, one way or another, you find yourself that you owe somebody something, especially in terms of monetary, and you are unable to pay that money. And the person can go to court, or maybe can go to auctioneers to be able to recover his or her money. Or maybe you have borrowed money from an institution and you are unable to pay that money. And therefore the institution, especially for financial institutions, can go and seek some services from the auctioneers to come and recover the debt that you owe them. So it's something not very new to many of us. And I believe today, as we are going to handle this topic, most of our public are going to understand more on how this matter is being handled. And I think today we are very lucky to have Mr. Benjamin Silla from the Legacy Auctioneering Services, also to help us to understand more how do we recover our debts. Mr. Silla, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome to our Legal Tuesday program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Asante sana.
Mangicho Mola is here.
Mangicho, asante sana.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, welcome to our legal program. And I believe today, by the end of the program, our audience are going to understand more about how do we recover debts, which is the legal framework when we are doing this job. You know, sometimes we find people blame auctioneers. They feel as if you are unfair to them. But I believe that there are some legal frameworks that help you to be able to do your work.
That's very
Therefore,
true.
welcome about.
Thank you.
Maybe you can say hi to our audience.
And introduce yourself.
Yes.
Introduce Legacy Auctioneering Services also.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Benjamin Sila. I work with the firm Legacy Auctioneering Services based in Nakuru and also in Nairobi. I've been an auctioneer for about 26 years or so. Quite some time doing the auctioneering business throughout this nation.
Oh, for all that time?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah.
So auctioneers is a company, is an organization, an entity. Usually, what is an auctioneering?
Auctioneering is a person. An auctioneer is a person who's been licensed by the auctioneering licensing board to carry out auction duties. And auction duties mostly are recovery of debts, maybe through a court order or through discharge of rent or through repossession, through written contract or written law, where something has to be recovered. The services of auctioneers, that's where they come in. So an auctioneer is a person who has been licensed to do that particular job. So it's not done by any other person, but the person must be licensed, and it must be licensed under the auctioneer's licensing board. There is a board which licenses the auctioneers, which an auctioneer has to apply certain qualifications, and after you pass everything, that board normally will license the auctioneer.
And I believe usually, as you are speaking, is that you usually take action as per the provisions of the court order?
Yes. Auctioneers normally work under the court. They are court officers in one or another because they are involved in the process of the court. Normally, when people go to court is because of the disagreement between A and B. Maybe one of the parties has not done what is supposed to be done. And that's why they would sue one party will sue the other to seek for his right. And they'll go to court and they'll be heard, and the process will continue, and the judge will listen to both parties, and they'll come and give witnesses, and the matter will continue maybe a year or two, the way you've been seeing, 5 years, 10 years, and after the judge will sit down and take a lot of time to make a ruling. And after he makes the ruling, he awards A or B what is rightful his, and after the judge has finished his 5 years or 3 years, whatever, hearing that matter, that matter will be handed to an auctioneer. So that to see that justice has been done to the person who had really come to court to
see
that. So
the exercise cannot be undertaken without a court order?
There are places, that's what I'm saying, there are situations which court orders must be used in auctioneering, in attachment. And that's what I'm saying, there are classes of attachment. There is attachment through the court order, where you must go through the court process, and auctioneer is given a court order to recover that process, to recover whatever is supposed to be recovered. There's a process also of repossession, maybe through charters agreements, where a financial institution has loaned you a vehicle or something like that, and there's a charter agreement which has been signed by both parties, and one party has failed to pay. The financial can use the auctioneer to repossess those items back as per the agreement, the written law which is there. That's a good introduction. I believe, Mangisho, before we go deeper on the topic, if our director is ready with today's drama. Yes, we want to introduce a very short skit, Mr. Sila here, just to dramatize what happens, and also you can also give your comment on what is going to happen here. So at this juncture, our dear viewer, you can watch this skit as we go deeper to this topic, debt recovery laws. Watch this.
Hello, Bwana Richard. Yes, where are you? Uko wapi? Haya, harakisha. This man, huyu jamaa anacheza pesa yangu bwana. Jambo.
Yes sir.
Bado msiku.
Safi sana.
Uko salama? Hamisi uko salama.
Hii gari ndio inaenda kazi. Hiyo nakulipa unipe mpaka Wednesday boss.
Hiyo ndio imekuwa habari yako. Kila siku nikikupigia unasema utalipa.
Wewe unajua venye sikuwa na kazi, nilikuwa mgonjwa. Tafadhali tu nipe mpaka Wednesday.
Ugonjwa yako na pesa yangu inaingiliana wapi? Angalia mali yako. Bwana.
Ulinisaidia kama rafiki. Nisaidie tu.
Nikifika biashara hakuna rafiki.
Nitakulipa.
Richard,
nitakulipa boss. Hii gari inaenda kazi, nakulipa.
Richard, hiyo ndio imekuwa habari yako kila wakati nikikuitisha pesa yangu.
Tafadhali
Richard,
ulinisaidia kama ndugu.
I think utanijua bado.
Nilikuwa mgonjwa boss.
Richard, let me tell you, your sickness and my money haingiliani mahali. I think bado hujanijua, si ndio? Haujanijua.
Wednesday haitaisha Wednesday.
Richard,
haitaisha.
Let me tell you, ninarudi sasa hivi.
Wednesday, tafadhali. Asante sana.
Asante ya nini Richard?
Asante, Wednesday.
Hey.
Kuna nilikuwa nipigia nitumie pesa. Sasa hii pesa. Mungu nisaidie. Mom, aki ninadaiwa mom. Uza basi. Kuja tu nisaidie. Ninadaiwa sana. Aki tafadhali, ninadaiwa niko na 50,000 ya.
Kaka unalipa ulipi? Ngoja. Fanya kazi ambayo imekuleta hapa. Bro,
ni huyu tu naomba.
Fanya kazi mimi niko hapa kuitisha pesa na usi.
Bro, tafadhali.
Unalipa ulipi?
Tafadhali bro.
Songa huku bro. Unalipa
ulipi? Nini naendelea hapa? Ni nini mnaniharibia kutoka? Ni nini? What is going on? Mliandikania wapi? Mliandikania wapi?
Umeanza kuleta kichwa madhe, si ndio? Alikuja pesa kwangu.
Pesa kwanza nyinyi wawili pesa ni zamani.
Pesa ni yangu.
Na wewe ni nini?
Mimi ni mfanyakazi wa kuitisha. Mimi ndio kuitisha. Mimi ndio nimemuita.
Sasa sikatai pesa yako ngapi?
50,000 actually ni 60. Ndio amekaisha.
Kwa hivyo hata you are not even
amekalisha 60 madhe nini? Amekalisha. Ngoja matalipa. Ngoja talipa. Kwani nini? Umekata sauti, si ndio?
Wewe sikiza. Hii kesi there is law.
Yes?
There is law. Hakuna haja ya kuja kumwona.
Ndio mimi sheria hapa. Umekutisha mimi ndio sheria. Mimi ndio sheria.
Nini? Wewe. Mliandikania wapi?
Madam, hapa hakuna mambo na kuandikania.
Mimi naweza lipa saa hii mliandikania wapi?
Okay. Nipatie.
Siwezi kukupa pambare, utaenda kusema sijakulipa. Leta mahali agreement. 50,000 wewe ni unaonekana ni mtu amesoma. Huwezi pea mtu 50,000 namna hiyo.
He was my friend. Alikuja kwangu na akaniomba pesa.
Deni ni deni na haina urafiki.
Basi alipe.
Deni ni
you sipo, my friend. Usipo mimi wacha nikwambie. Wewe. Haya. Wacha kuingiza wazazi hapa, my friend.
Hebu niguze.
Pesa ulikuwa unataka kutengeneza
hiyo mwili uko nayo itaishia jera hii. Hii mwili itaishia.
Ngoja unalipa ulipi kaka? Madam.
Yes.
Wewe kwa heshima yako tu. Yes. Wacha tu anilipe pesa yangu ama umlipie tumalizane. 60. Thank you. 60 madhe.
Acha kuinua mchanga hapa. Nikushiba inafanya ukae hivyo. Nasema aje. Mimi pesa ni.
Thank you. Nipatie pesa.
Umemtangaza kwa marafiki wake wote. Umepigia watu wote simu.
Because I need my money. Nataka pesa yangu.
Sasa marafiki wamekulipa. Inaharibia mtoto wangu. Jina na ni mtu wa biashara.
Sasa amekuwa akiniambia atanilipa. Hajawahi nipatie pesa yangu.
Mtu wafanyaje? Si mimi na wewe unakaa mtu amesoma. Lakini na wewe wapi? Unaenda kutafuta kundi.
No.
Huyu. Huyu.
This is the best person.
Kwa nini?
Kwa kunitishia pesa juu kila siku anasema anaenda kazi.
Atakuambia marafiki unamharibia jina unaenda kumtafutia mtu kama.
Hata una bahati yako na meno yote bado. Una bahati. Kwa actually alikuwa anatoa. Nilipa hiyo deni. Atolewe meno.
Lakini siwezi.
Unataka
agreement hadi mliandikania ndio nikulipe na ni sign. Otherwise nitakupea pesa namna gani?
Madam, listen. Huyu alikuja kama friend. Na alinipata kwa my office. So as a friend, ilibidi tu nimsaidie. Nafanya hivi.
Haikuwagi na
History yenu mimi sitaezana nayo. Ujue hivi. Pesa yangu ya kazi utanilipa. Hii mwili ijengwe na mbao bro. Umesikia?
Hata una heshima ya mama. Wewe unakuwa na mzazi kweli?
Kujua.
Mangicho, mambo imechemka. Bwana Sila.
Hai, mambo hapo.
Na nafikiri hivyo ndivyo sometimes unapata kunafanyika. Tuseme ground. Mostly such situations are there. And I believe the skit can really reveal a lot of things that happens when we are maybe borrowing or lending money to our friends and other things. What can you pick from there, maybe Mr. Sila?
Let me say from that clip, there's no law followed, because that is, I'll call it thuggery, and that is not even near our scope. When I talk as an auctioneer, when people think about recovery, the auctioneers don't go even near that level, which you have seen there. When I talk about the auctioneering part of it, because it's part of recovery, I would want to explain very well their procedures.
All right.
And normally, when I say the auctioneers are licensed by a licensing board, which is appointed by the Chief Justice. So there are people who are licensed to do a particular job of recovery, but not the way you have seen at the clip there. Okay. Because one thing is...
Doesn't have to be chaotic.
No, it's not supposed to be chaotic. Because one thing is, the auctioneer needs to identify himself when it comes to you. He needs to say, I'm an auctioneer. My name is Sila. I'm from Legacy Auctioneering Services. I've been sent here by ABCD to recover this.
And why important you can even produce documents?
They should, because one thing, the auctioneer has an ID, which is issued by the licensing board. So when you go to a debtor, you must identify yourself and say, I'm an auctioneer, I'm licensed, and I'm here because of this debt. And after introducing yourself, you'll tell the person why you're there. In case of court processes, you'll have the warrant of attachment, which has been signed by the court. And you'll show that warrant of attachment. And what you're going to do to the debtor, you're not going to take the lorry. You're going to give him something called a proclamation. A notice for 7 days in case of a court order. So you have to list the items to be attached and serve a proclamation to the debtor. After you serve the proclamation to the debtor, you leave the premises. You have no business with the debtor. So you give him 7 days to clear the amount which has been quoted there by the court to be recovered. And if at all he pays the amount within 7 days, then the matter is settled that way.
Yeah, just for clarification, maybe you may correct me if I'm not getting it right. The way you're saying is that I cannot come directly to you as an auctioneer to go and recover my debt. I feel like there must be, there's a route of going to court, then you get nod from the court to go and...
Yes, debt recovery one should be recovered through a court order or through written contracts, like repossession of motor vehicles. You don't need to go to court. Discharge of rent, when somebody has not failed to pay good rent, you don't need to go to court. What you need to do is have an instruction and serve the instruction to the debtor. So there's a process which must start somewhere, not what you have seen, coming to fight with somebody and those kind of things. No, it doesn't work that way. So recovery has a process, it has laws, and those laws have to be followed. And I think what the problem is, maybe people don't know actually what is the role of the auctioneer when they come in. Because when they follow that procedures, in fact, if at all you follow the procedures that have been laid down in the Auctioneering Act and the laws which are there, I don't think even we'll have a problem with auctioneers at all. Because we'll have followed what is supposed to be there. There's a reason I'm in this place. I've identified myself properly. I've given you a notice. And then the other action takes, after the notice has expired, is when we move in to pick the things.
And in this case, for the person who is owed, they can come to you as the auctioneers directly, or they have to get through the court?
Well, we cannot, if at all there's no written contract, that's what I'm saying. Is there any written contract about the goods supposed to be attached? If at all there's no written contract, it's just like what you have seen there. Well, an auctioneer cannot come in. He has no business. Yes. like what you have seen on the clip. The auctioneer has no business to do that, such kind of business, because there's nothing written, there's nothing instructions.
True.
So how does an auctioneer come in? He has no business there.
Okay.
So anybody acting that way and says he's doing auction or is collecting debt, I think that can be treated in a different way.
For example, you want to go and recover it somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, most of the things that you do is to take the properties.
Yes.
How do you identify the properties that you are going to take to stand in for that debt?
As just I've said, is the first step is coming to serve you with a notice called a proclamation. A proclamation is a list of the items which are going to be attached if at all you don't pay the debt.
Or the list of items, who writes those items?
The auctioneer will write those items. Now, Mr. X, you owe Mr. B some money.
Yes.
He has gone to court and there's a warrant of attachment has been issued against B. And when you go to B, you introduce yourself and serve him a proclamation. A proclamation is a list of items of the things which are supposed to be attached. And those are, maybe if at all I've come to your house, maybe I'll list the TV, I'll list the sofa set, I'll list the radio, and those kind of things. I'll list your vehicle.
They have to be of the same value as the debt being owed.
They should be almost the same value of what is owed. So that list is called a proclamation notice.
Before you go even further,
yes.
That's where now I was.
Yeah.
So it is you who come in the house at that juncture.
Yes.
And you physically identify those items.
That's true. Yes. Okay. And normally in these cases like court orders and those ones, the instructing party is the one as a duty to come and tell me, hapa ndio kwa Kamau. These are the things for the auctioneer is just a middle person.
Okay.
So the instructing party has a duty to identify those things which belong to the debtor. And the auctioneer's duty is just to see that the things are there and also take due diligence and list those things. If at all there's a vehicle, they need to do a search to confirm that vehicle belongs to Onyango or Otieno, so that you don't have a confusion of attaching Onyango's items when they belong to Otieno. So those things are supposed to be done. It's a process. It's not something you wake up in the morning and just bump into somebody. And sometimes you see those questions, these people came, they never gave notice. The notice must be there. Yes, the notice must be there.
So the notice of payment, you said it's just 7 days?
For the court matters, court warrants is 7 days. Given 7 days to clear them same. For a discharge of rent matter is 14 days.
14 days.
Discharge of rent is when we have the issue of rent arrears. When you have rent arrears of 3 months and the tenant has not paid, an auctioneer can come and proclaim the tenant's items, give him a 14 days notice.
Okay.
And then after 14 days notice, that's when the auctioneer would come and carry those things. That is
3
the
months.
law. That is the law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So there's also been the question of when these items are taken, where are they taken to?
Yes.
And can they also again be recovered by the debt?
Yes, they can. Normally, after 14 days or the 7 days, the debtor has not paid any money, the auctioneer will move in and he'll carry these things. And he's supposed to keep them in a store. He must have a yard, or there's a place where they keep these things. They are stored there. And then that also gives room for the debtor still to pay. So if at all doesn't pay, that's when the auctioneer advertises those things for sale by public auction. So before you reach the public auction part of the whole thing, it's quite a process. It's quite a process, because you see there is that part of proclamation, the 7 or the 14 days. And then after that, there's that part after the expiry of the period, nothing has been done, nothing has been paid. There's that part of carrying the things, storing them. And then there's that part of advertising, which in law also must be another 7 days before you sell.
So between the day that you
for movable properties, for immovable is 14 days.
14 days.
So there are differences about the movable and the movable properties. So the process takes time before actually we come to do the bell.
Yeah. Just to follow again the process. You have come, the auctioneer has come to my properties or my home. You give me a notice, 7 or 14 days.
Yes.
Number one, should it be written or it's verbal?
It is a written document.
Just commitment that you...
It is a written document called a proclamation. It's a form which is prescribed in the Auctioneers Act. it is a written document. That document contains your names,
Yes.
The name of the auctioneer, his address, where he's trading from. That document also contains the name of the debtor, and it also contains the court which has issued that warrant. It also contains the amount which is supposed to be recovered.
Yes.
That document also contains the amount supposed to be paid for the auctioneers, his fees.
Yes.
And also, now down there, you list the items you have found there. Yes.
Where is the part of the commitment that, for example, I've agreed that within 7 days I'm going to pay the debt? I'm not hearing.
There's no commitment there.
Oh.
What the auctioneer does serves just a proclamation. When you come and pay the debt, that everything just ends there.
And again, I think the beauty is also once you have taken my properties, during the storage period, you are also allowed to come and collect your items.
After payment. That's true. That's true. That's
But
true.
once they are auctioned to the public?
Once they are auctioned, now the process continues. You've seen the process of proclamation. We have taken the process of collecting the items. Now, at the time of collecting the items also, the auctioneer must list the items he has collected. Are we together? I've given you a proclamation notice. Proclaimed TV, whatever. That is a notice saying you pay this money within 7 days or 14 days in case of discharge of rent. After the expiry of that period and the money has not been paid, the auctioneer will come and pick those items. At the times of picking those items, he serves something called a notification of sale. And it's a document also which has the details of the auctioneer, the details of the case, and the details of the items he has collected. Which items have been taken for storage.
Okay.
So it's a process. So those are when those items are taken for storage now, still the debtor has time to pay. And if at all he pays, he picks his item from the store, which the items are being kept. If at all he doesn't pay, the auctioneer advertises those items for sale, which normally takes also another 7 days.
Okay.
Advertise today, I must sell within 7 days.
Yeah.
If at all is land, it takes 14 days. So when these items are advertised, it must state where they're going to be sold, when they're going to be sold, the time of the auction, and all those details.
And what is the purpose of selling them?
To recover the debt.
To recover the debt.
That is the process. That is the only issue. Why should you attach? It's only to recover the debt. Yeah. So when it reaches that point of the auction, that's when we do the auctions and the public auction is done, and the money, the properties are sold, and the money is paid now to the other person.
To the other person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, or to court.
So, before we continue, we need to take a very short break. When you're coming back, we'll have more on that. And our SMS number is 23814 or 0721 105 105. If you have any question on auctioneering laws, you are free to text us on the 23814 or 0721 105 105. This is Legal Tuesday. Paul Kagi Mangichomola and our guest is Benjamin Silla, Legacy Auctioneering Services. We'll be right back after this.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. Rudia mara tatu.
Shut up, everybody. Listen.
Let your lorry. Let your lorry.
S E C I S I O N. Nimeambulia patupu. Utamwambia je kwa kizungu?
I have a brilliant tooth. I have a brilliant tooth. I have a brilliant tooth.
Sahani?
Bakuli.
Eh?
Sahani ya bakuli.
Umesema nini kwa? Sahani?
Sufuria. Sufuria.
Parallelogram, hebu jaribu.
Parallelogram. 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 Parallelogram.
Next on.
I want to help you. Niambie ukweli. Pastor. Nimeona mnaingia mahali kachochoro hivi, mahali kuna giza. Na ukiongea ukweli itakusaidia siku ya leo.
Niliona nikiwa peke yangu hapa na chief.
Yeye alisema aliona mazinga umbo.
Hiyo ni kweli aliona mazinga umbe, lakini sio ni kani mazinga umbe aliona. Si mazinga umbe aliona.
Chief anaonekana kuna mambo unajua.
Ningeomba unisaidie na dawa za kumaliza kukasirika, kwa sababu kuzuia kukasirika, kwa sababu ile tunaye hapa ya watu wa siasa.
Okay, dawa za hasira zenye tunaweza kupea.
Hebu toka hapo kwanza, usijaribu kuguza gari yangu wewe.
Sijaguza.
Unaona venye wewe ni mchafu?
Mimi si mchafu.
Nisaidie.
Na tukienda huko tulemewe na mazoezi.
Hayo wapi? Sasa unaona, wewe ndo lazima tutalema jioni mchele.
Sasa tutafanya aje?
Nataka pesa yangu.
Sasa Mama Ken,
mimi sitaki kujua na usiniambie.
Naomba tu unipe muda.
Muda mgani?
Nitakutafutia pesa.
Sitaki. Sasa leo ninataka pesa yangu.
Hiyo pesa utatoa kidogo tu. Hakuna hiyo pesa yangu utatoa. Kidogo tu. Kidogo saa ngapi? Hii kiatu ninaenda naye. Sitaki kujua. Pesa umekaa nazo wiki moja, umekaa na pesa yangu na unipi.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
All right, and welcome back to our Legal Tuesday. Today we are talking about debt recovery laws, and we are having Mr. Benjamin Silla, who is from the Legacy Auctioneering Services. If you have any question regarding to what we are talking about today, you are free to text us on 23814 or 0721-105-105. And we are asking you one question here. Where do you feel people's rights are infringed during debt recovery? Where do you feel people's rights are infringed during the debt recovery? 23814 or 0721-105 our SMS number. Before we go to the street to hear what public are saying about the issue of auctioneering, something was crossing in my mind, Mr. Silla, very queer. For example, I owe you or somebody debt, and you have come to recover it, and I feel I need now to go and get back my items. And during the public auctioneering or public sale, I appear to buy those items. What happens?
You buy your own items.
Sale by public auction is a competitive sale.
Yes.
Is a competitive bidding process. That's why we call it a public auction. And that's why everybody is welcome to the auction. The data can come, or you can come also. What depends there is the bidding process. If at all you bid much than the other person, you'll still buy your goods back. It's not strange. We have seen it happen. That people come and bought their things back. It's a common thing. It's a bidding process, so will not really deny you from bidding. Yes. It depends if at all you're the highest bidder. That's why we call it public auction is a bidding process.
Yeah.
So if at all your bid will be higher than the other person, and you happen to be the same person who was taken, provided you pay the money, it goes to the other party. I don't think we have any problem with that.
A scenario where those who are bidding the sale makes it a little bit lower, and then the items that you have put there are unable to fully recover the debt. What happens?
Most of the items when we sell, like, okay, when you go to movable properties, land and those kind of things, normally we have a valuation.
Yeah.
And the valuation must state the reserve price. There is something called a reserve price, which we cannot go below that reserve price. Mostly we have, when we're dealing with land and proper land and buildings, those ones we have the valuations, and we can't go below the reserve price. Same also with the motor vehicles and other items. We can have a valuation done on them so that to attain a certain price.
Okay.
But also in auctions like loose assets, at times you may not really get the price which you are getting.
All right.
You might buy a TV for 50,000. Yes, you have used it for about 5 years or 3 years. When it comes to auctions, you cannot expect to get the 50,000.
Exactly.
Obvious will sell to the highest bidder, but maybe a reasonable price to see at least recover the debt. Yeah.
Wow. And also, Manisha, before you come in, I was thinking of just to understand whether also you're given services by banks to be able to recover some of the debts?
Yes, auctioneers, the banks use auctioneers to recover the debts, but most of the bank matters are secured because mostly they have the titles with them. Because before you get a bank loan, you have given out a title, or you have given out a vehicle, or you have given out a security. So if at all you have defaulted to pay the bank, the auctioneer, the bank doesn't need to go to court. It can engage the service of the auctioneers directly to recover that particular security which was given at the time of giving out the monies. The process of recovery is still the same. It must, for land, immovable property is a longer process because you must give a 45 days notice. The auctioneer will give the debtor 45 days notice before they sell. And after he has not, if the 45 days notice are over, the auctioneer will advertise the property 14 days. So a process of the bank is a longer process. It will take about 60 days before we do the actual auction.
All right.
So, but the procedure of the notices, the advertisement is the same, only the period of immovable properties is slightly longer.
Correct.
In case of motor vehicles, because they're chattels, they'll be repossessed by the auctioneer, and then they'll be put for auction after evaluation has been done to the motor vehicle so that they know how much it can be recovered.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah, maybe just Kagi, before maybe we look at the Vox Pops, Bwana Sila, I know this, we were talking about this on when you were off here, the issue of ensuring that we have cooperation also from the client, because we tend maybe to have some clients who might be very hostile when it comes now to being visited by the auctioneers, and what security does the auctioneer, or do the auctioneers also have when they're undertaking this exercise?
If at all the client turns to be hostile at the time of attachment, the auctioneer, we don't fight with them. We don't need to fight with them because why should I fight for something they're not mine? These are not my things. So I normally say we don't need to fight for those things. The Act allows the auctioneer to get security from the nearest police station or the nearest security agencies, maybe the DC or the APs, who can accompany him to go and attach those things. So the auctioneer can go with policemen, can go with security, or he can hire security at the time of attachment. Normally when he does all these things, the amount which he incurs on maybe hiring the security and maybe hiring a breakdown will be incurred by the debtor in the long run. So the cooperation of the debtor is key, because one thing, if at all he knows that this vehicle is not mine and it belongs to the bank, fighting over it is just adding more injury, because it adds more cost on something he has failed to pay. So sometimes cooperation is better once you know that this is a debt which you owe, and these are the process of recovery. I've been served with the notices, the days are over. Surrender the items. It becomes very easy. These days, what I've seen the bank do, they can call the debtor and tell him your loan is due, your vehicle has not been paid, can you surrender it to the yard? And very good debtors will say, because I don't have money today and I will sell money in the next 2 weeks, he'll drive that vehicle to our yard, and now it will just be parked there and say, give me the 2 weeks. So you see, when he does that way, he doesn't incur a lot of cost on the auctioneering.
Very true.
So you find he has saved himself. So cooperation is key, because the push and pull does not help anything. It only accelerates the cost, and also the process becomes more complicated and so more costly for the debtor.
All right. Yeah. And in terms of jurisdiction, like for example, like maybe for the auctioneers, maybe in a particular county like Nakuru, can they also maybe go and
repossess somewhere else? Let me start by saying that we have two classes of auctioneers. We have a class A and a class B auctioneer. A class A auctioneer is an auctioneer who is licensed by the licensing board to carry out repossessions and also realize security of properties within particular jurisdictions. And they are given counties. They can be given 3 or 4, 5 or 6 counties by the board. That's an auctioneer class A. A class B auctioneer is sort of a senior auctioneer, because he does court warrants, he does instructions from the court. Class B cannot act, class A cannot take instructions, court warrants. That is only for the class B. So the class B will do court warrants within a particular jurisdiction, and also do discharge of rent within a particular jurisdiction. But Class B also will repossess throughout the country. He can move from here to Mandera to repossess a vehicle. He can move from here to Malindi to sell a property. So a Class B will operate on repossession and on court warrants, or repossessions and repossession of property. He'll do it throughout the nation. But on court matters and discharge of rent, they'll do within a particular jurisdiction, which the court, with the license board will specify in the license of the auctioneer.
Yeah. And maybe just one more, Kagi. What happens and how does the law look at it when it comes now to maybe the property that is supposed to maybe to be recovered by the auctioneers belong maybe to an institution, maybe a school, maybe a hospital, or maybe even a church?
When the property belongs to a church or a school or a hospital, that property is charged to a bank. That means a person, either from the church or from the school or from the hospital, approached the bank and told the bank, can you give us this money using this security, which is the church or the school or the hospital. And in case of defaults, the process will be the same. The church will still be put on auction, or the hospital will still put on auction, because the bank has to recover.
I'm trying to look at it like the weight of the damage is quite higher than maybe in a family setup, because maybe this is a school now. You're looking. Is there a way maybe you're also looking at the rights of the pupils or the students?
Normally, you see, when we're doing like a school, obviously, we're not talking about we are talking about maybe the buildings. Yeah. You know, we're talking about the buildings, the infrastructure, the infrastructure which is there, because mostly we are selling because of the title deed and those kind of things. But also, there are schools which have debts. Maybe they have taken supply of things and they have not paid. If at all to be attached, obviously, there are things you're going to be attached. Maybe the bus, maybe the computers and those kind of things. Yeah, because that's a process of law of just recovery. If at all the court orders that these things to be attached, the auctioneer just does the process of the attachment. Yeah.
Okay. At this juncture, Mr. Sila, we have our colleague called Cheminingwa, who went on the ground to the public to be able to also ask them about these debt recovery laws. And we want to hear his collection on the Vox Pop. Watch this.
Barabara Mangicho, leo tumekuja mjini ili kuweza kuuliza watu masuala kuhusu na mikopo midogo midogo, wameathirika vipi na ni wito gani wanatolea pengine kampuni ambazo zinapeana hela hizi, na tutaweza kupata maoni visawasawa ili kuweza kufahamu wanaathirika vipi na wana maoni gani na mapendekezo yapi pengine ya kisheria ama mapendekezo ambayo ni ya kawaida ambayo yakiweza kuwekwa katika muktadha ulio sawasawa, utaweza kuhakikisha kwamba mikopo hii inaweza kuathiri vizuri na si kuathiri tu kwa vibaya ama kuweza kuwakandamiza kwa njia moja au nyingine. Wacha tusikize maoni ya baadhi ya wananchi wanasema vipi.
Kwa mikopo ndogo ndogo, nasema kwanza positive side inasaidia sana. Like kwa emergencies, like me in my own experience, emergencies nimekuwa nazo most ni mikopo imecome through. Zina come through mostly na sazi maybe umeweka pesa kwa bank, M-Pesa una anything. Due to furiza una come through inakukopea. Lakini still iko na side effects zake mingi sana kwanza. Kwa sababu mostly umekopa 1000 alafu nakuta unaweka CRB. Like hizo vitu hata kama hii polisi wangefanya something, maybe CRB yeko a higher limit. Like kama watu wamekopa 50,000 and above and maybe below wasiyeko kwa CRB, kwa sababu maybe these people hata mwenye alikopa CA lakini hakuna details zake zote.
Wangu mimi ningesema kwa mkopo hizi ndogo ndogo hazifai, na wala hata mkopo ndogo ndogo isaidii, kwa maana unaweza patiwa kama sio 5 ambao unaweza fanyia kazi, unaona hata kazi yenye ulikuwa unaweka haiwezekani. Sasa 500 ni kwenda pale kwa duka na kununua kenye unanunua inaisha. Kitu kama 100 kukopewa ni sawa, lakini watupewe kwa muda wa kuilipa, ndio tukua tumeweka business na kuhifadhi vizuri na kuweka nini. Ndio kwa maana kuwalipa zao. Kwa hivyo kwa mkopo wasituharakishe sana, kwa maana kama mimi mwenyewe sijaikopa lakini ningetaka kukopa. Kenye ningesema
nini inakutisha usikope?
Kenye kinanitisha ni saa hizi ni kama siko kazi, si ndio? Saa hizi tuseme tumekopa kama 200 ya kuweka kazi. Je, wanaweza niharakisha ama watanipeleka tu mdogo mdogo kwa kulipa? Inawezekana ndio nijimudu kikazi ndio niweke faida ya kuwalipa na kubakisha ya kazi.
Hizi maloni hizi ndogo ndogo hazitusaidii. Juu hata nikichukua hizo 500 zitanisaidia na nini? Taingia pale ninunue unga ziishe niacho nikilipa. Na the more unakaa ulipi deni yenyewe, the more interest inajiweka. So mimi ningependekeza niseme hizo pesa ndogo ndogo kama ni hizo hustler fund tulishindwa kurudisha juu hazikuwa, yani pesa ndogo hizo. Watupe hata kama ni waongeze hata kama ni 100. 100k. Hiyo itakuinua kidogo, hata unaweza badilisha hii kazi ya bodaboda. So hivyo ndivyo ningesema mimi.
Na kwa weje wanasimamia pia hii mikopo ndogo ndogo kando na serikali, unawa advice vipi? Kwa sababu unajua wewe umewahi kopa, unajua umewahi fanya hivi na vile na pengine ikakuathiri kwa uzuri ama kwa ubaya.
Okay, hao wenye wanatupea wanaitwa Shyrock. Hao wanatupea pesa ndogo ndogo, wanatupea for example 1500, wakienda sana wanatupea 10,000. Sasa 10,000 huwezi fanya kitu nayo kwanza saa hizi na hiyo uchumi ya Ruto. So naweza pendekeza kama ni kutupea pesa, watupea pesa zenye zitaweza hata kununua kashamba. At least wabaki na hiyo nini ya shamba. Wakibaki na title, unajua sasa ukielemewa kulipa watachukua shamba. So na wewe utajitahidi umalize kulipa ndio uchukue shamba yako.
Kulingana na mikopo, ningesema kwanza watuangushie interest ya mikopo. Ya pili, ningeomba serikali ituangalie kulingana na ile CRB. So waache kutuweka kwa CRB, hiyo kitu iishe.
Hiyo maneno kama ni mambo ya pesa, tuwekewe pesa juu bila kukata pesa yenye haistahili. Na ya pili ni vile kumekaa wakati huu hakuna pesa, hiyo serikali na stahili iangalie mambo yetu sana sana watu wa bodaboda vile kumekaa kwa wakati huu.
Mimi nimewahi kopa, kwa mfano kama fuliza hivyo. Nishashai fuliza 500 hivyo. Lakini ilinisumbua sana, ilinisaidia wakati huo, lakini wakati wa kulipa kuja ilinisumbua sana kwa ajili katika hii kazi yangu nikibeba mtu pengine anataka kunitumia pesa na simu, itanisumbua sana kwa jinsi atanitumia pesa na zimezwe. So mimi naweza sema waweke sheria kama ukikopa kaa fuliza hivyo zikuwe inahusika mambo mengine, ati ukitumia pesa inamezwa hapo hapo. Sina mengi, ni hao tu.
Na barabara kabisa Mangicho, jinsi unavyosikia wananchi wamesema kwamba mikopo midogo midogo imeweza kuathiri wengine vitofauti, pengine vizuri, wengine imewaathiri kinamna tofauti, lakini la msingi wamesema kwamba afadhali kuweko katika kuweza kuzuiwa kuwa na mikopo zaidi au kuweka katika CRB kutokana na mikopo ambayo umepewa pengine hela ni chache. Wanasema kama ni kuweko katika CRB afadhali uwekwe, kwa sababu umeweza kupewa angalabu pesa ambazo zinafana, zinaweza kumsaidia kufanya maendeleo ama kufanya vitu ambavyo vitaweza kusababisha ya kwamba ameweza kujikimu na kuweza kufanya maendeleo. Wengi wanalia kwamba umewekwa katika CRB kwa sababu ya shilingi 500, kwa sababu ya shilingi 1000, na pengine hata kwa sababu ya pesa ambazo si yeye aliweza kuomba ama kuweza kuuliza moja kwa moja kutokana na vile vidubuasha ambavyo vinapatikana kwenye simu, na vile vile wale ambao wanapatikana katika maofisi ama wanajulikana kama Shylocks katika sehemu tofauti tofauti za miji na vijiji. Sina la ziada, kwako studioni.
And I hope, Mr. Sellers, you have watched what I've said there. It's more of talking about the small loans. And maybe before even we go further, I don't know whether you sometimes find yourself being approached to follow up on the small loans.
Yeah, or what is your mandate, by the way?
And again, as you answer that, do you have a categories of maybe debts that you don't handle?
Okay. When you talk about recovery process, it starts from the small loan to the big loans. So we don't have a classification of saying that we'll not be able to handle this one because it's small, and we'll not be able to handle this one because it's big, because all of them are classified as debts, and obvious, the party which is claiming the small loan, it feels the pain, because that's why they want that small loan back. So normally, I cannot say that there is a limit where I would start off, and
maybe the only difference now is the complexity of recovery.
Yeah, the complexity of recovery. Yeah. Small loans, let's say they're a bit complex a bit. And I think mostly they do use debt collectors who maybe go demand the monies, but you can find there's no legal framework on the issue of debt collections, like coming to tell you, you owe Kamau some money, give us this money. If at all it's not written like what you saw in the first clip, can also bring some issues. And I think that's why the courts so we try to have the small claims court. The small claim courts were introduced so that to deal with these small matters, so that to see how do we handle those small debts, so that things can get moving. Because unless these debts are paid also, the country cannot move. The bank requires this money to get back so that it can loan somebody else. These other microfinances require this money to come back so that they can help out somebody else. Fuliza also, when you Fuliza the account and you don't pay, also the chain doesn't go the way it's supposed to go. So I think it's a role able, it needs to pay. It needs to do something about it so that you see that the economy can be moving. When you see matters also lying in court without being recovered, not being completed, those kind of things, it slows down the economy, because we need to get this money back to be loaned to somebody else and those kind of things. But if at all the monies will be taken and they're not recovered and they're not paid back, that means we'll get to a place where we will stand still. There'll be no money to give out, and progress will not be there. Yeah.
So I think, Kage, also one of the other things that, Bonasila, you can also maybe talk about, where is the place of the protections, or the protection of one's privacy, in this particular case, the client?
Yeah, let me say the laws have changed day by day, and you see the rights of people are being infringed on one another. We just need to see what needs to be done, because you see, when you go to a house where there is maybe, when you find there maybe cultures which don't allow you to come in, you must not go there, because we're told to go there. There are some places where you cannot just walk in. Like even like a place of worship, you can just walk in and just say, I want to pick that TV. You must have a procedure of doing things and knowing that you don't infringe the right of the other people at the time of attachment. The attachment can be done, but you should see that what is the right time I can do this? How can I do this without infringing the right of the other party or causing more harm in the course of the recovery? So those kind of things, we normally talk to auctioneers and see how is the best way we can do it. We normally have workshops 4 in a year, where we talk to auctioneers throughout the country, and we educate each other on how do we handle these issues which are emerging each day, and also which can also make the work difficult, so that we can see that both parties and everything is done in the right way, so that we achieve the same goal of recovery without really infringing much harm to the people.
When there may be cases of even maybe the exercise being filmed and maybe being announced in news bulletins, that is an infringement on the part of the client?
Is not really an infringement on the part of the client, because you see, one thing is depends was the process done well. Well, you know, one thing I cannot deny the newsman. Maybe I'm going to attach one of the big companies here, and you find they're there. I'll not tell him, can you walk away? You see, that's not really been infringing the rights of the other person, because it depends as the process being done well. minor I'll take is the process. The process has been done well. The notice has been done well. The advertisement has been done well. If at all the process has been done okay, I don't think there's any infringement of any rights. The only problem is if at all we don't follow the process well. But also, that sometimes you can find people saying they were not served, they were not given enough notice. Those are the few things need to be looked at. Was the process done properly? Were they served with the notices which are supposed to be served? Has everything been done well? Was the court order signed properly? Was there a judgment in that matter? So all those things, once they are done properly, I don't think there should be any problem. But when they're not done properly, maybe there are shortcuts. That's when you find there are a lot of problems. A public outcry, this was not done properly, and those kind of things.
What happens when maybe is a property that maybe is co-owned? Yeah, or the same procedures for
a co-owned property, definitely at the time of taking the loan, you see the ownership must be established. At the time of giving the security.
And maybe it is one partner who took the loan.
If it was one partner, there is normally what we call a spouse consent. When the husband takes the loan, the wife has to sign a consent on that title to be held by the bank. So normally when we are doing recovering, obvious the other party must be aware of what is taking place. Yeah, because there's a spouse consent which has to be signed, and that's the process of the bank giving out the loan. If at all they don't follow that process, obviously you'll find there'll be a lot of legal issues. We were not involved in this matter. This state was taken from home without us knowing, those kind of things. But normally that is on the bank sections to see that they've done the due diligence and see that everything is done properly. If at all the property is co-owned, both of the parties must sign and say, actually, we have surrendered this title to the financial institution to get this money. And then that process takes place.
Are there scenarios, is there any possible scenario that maybe the auctioneers might want now to take the items only for you maybe to be shocked that maybe there are no even items to take?
Yeah, there are scenarios you'll find there's nothing, because you see, people can take things to do a business, take money to do business, and then in the course of the business, everything goes down. And by the time when you do the recovery process, because it's a process also, it's not something you wake up and do tomorrow, you can end up find there's nothing. So there are those scenarios where you can go to a debtor and you find actually there's nothing to be recovered. Yes.
What happens now?
Normally what we do, we just get a report back to court and tell them we went there and we never found anything. So we leave it to the judgment creditor, where he has a right of either applying for a civil jail for the person who had taken the goods or those kind of things. It's a process, they do that, but our work just ends there because we can't do anything about it because there's nothing to be recovered at that stage. Wow. Yeah.
And I was interested in knowing whether your auctioneering activities are guided by any code of conduct.
Yes, we have a code of conduct for the auctioneers on how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. Just being respectful and seeing that the work is done properly. The older times you'll find even auctioneers used to have offices. You know, they used to say that auctioneers taken my goods, but even I don't know where to get him. But this time we have, the auctioneers must have an office, must have an address where he can be traced. He must be licensed. That's why I say there's a board which licenses auctioneers, and it has a register of the auctioneers. They license them every year.
Okay.
So they normally see that they are licensed, and there's a way you can check with the board to know this auctioneer has come to me. Is he licensed or is not licensed? So that you don't deal with quacks, because also we have quacks who also have come into the business. So there's a way you need to check with the board and know, is Legacy licensed to do this business or are they not licensed? And the board obviously will let you know. So there are those parameters which you need to work with. Also, there's the issue of the fees. How should an auctioneer charge? There is an act also which an auctioneer should charge. So it's not something we just say that pay me 20,000, pay me 50,000. There's an act. There's a fee. There's a fee which has already been prescribed. Okay. So we normally use that fee. So if at all you go outside those parameters, obviously we have the licensing board which can discipline an auctioneer. And if at all you find the auctioneer has not done what he's supposed to do, the person who is aggrieved can write to the licensing board and raise a complaint against the auctioneer, whereby the auctioneer can be fined, can be suspended, can be revoked even his license. those measures can be taken after the board has listened to both parties and know what went wrong with the whole matter. Yeah. But I think that's the part where the public maybe doesn't know so much. They might cry that we have been infringed here and here. But if at all they're taken through the process, if at all the process is done well, I don't think there's any problem. But if at all the process is not done well, they have a right also to raise a complaint that this was not done in the right way.
Many believe that when you are doing your job, you must be accompanied by security officers. Is it a must?
It is not a must. It is not a must. At times we do that when we find that there is likely breach of peace or confrontation. We'll take the police officers with us. We'll just apply to the nearest police station and they'll accompany us to see that we rescue that job. But it's not a must that I should come with police officers in a place. Because if at all you owe somebody a debt, and I've already given you a notice and told you that Kamau needs this money, and the court has already issued this decree, and I've given you 7 days. Those 7 days are for you to go check with the court and say, is that decree from court? Those 7 days are for you to also to make arrangements. Can you make an application, maybe to say, I want to pay by installments? You know, all those things, you're given that time to see what can be done. So normally the debtors have time to put their house in order. And that time is given by the auctioneer because we give you that notice. And that notice is very important for the debtor to know what is taking place. So that if at all he doesn't act within that time, the consequences after that will not be very good. And that's the issue. So if at all I come to you and there's not much of a problem, obvious, the matters will go on very well. I don't need the police to come in. But if at all there's a problem, I'll call the police.
And of course, I believe if you are forced to use any security officer, the cost will be implicated to...
Definitely, to the debtor.
The debtor.
Yes. Okay. That is also the hiring of the vehicles which I'm going to use, the people I'm going to use to load these things and those kind of things.
But I think the key thing here, our audience to understand, Mangicho, is that wherever the auctioneer is involved to come and cover the debt from you, any cost that comes along with that, it falls on your back. It's good to know that.
It's very, very important. So what would be the basic qualifications of an auctioneer?
For one to become an auctioneer, you have to make an application to the licensing board. One, you must have basic qualifications like obvious passes in English, in mathematics. You must also have worked with an auctioneer, under an auctioneer, for a period of 3 years so that you're conversant with the auctioneer's rules and the laws and what's supposed to be done in the business. And also, after you've done all that, there is also an interview where the licensing board will carry out a written interview for you, where you will have to go through some questions and those kind of things. If at all you pass that one, there's also an oral interview before you are licensed. So it's quite a process before you really get a license and say, I'm a licensed auctioneer. This is a process.
So just to remind you that this is the Legal Tuesday, and today we are having Mr. Benjamin Sila from the Legacy Auctioneering Services, and today we are talking about the debt recovery laws. If you have any question to us, 23814 is our SMS number, and also 0721105105. We'll be checking whether you have made your comments there. But before we continue, we want to do something here, Mangicho. I hope my director is ready for this. The profile.
Yes.
We need to, Mr. Sila, in our program, we profile some of the prominent legal minds to understand where they have come from and where they are today. So Mangicho, take over.
Sure. Of course, we have our legal profile for today. And this is the personality we are going to feature today, Kagi. I know is a household name in the country. That is lawyer Judy Thongori. Judy Thongori is a Kenyan lawyer and rights activist. And when you're talking about lawyer Judy Thongori, she has over 30 years of practice as a lawyer and 20 years of practice as a family lawyer. She graduated from the law school at the University of Nairobi. Then she also joined the Lee Mudhoga and Associates, where she felt purposed after which she also built up a private practice and reputation as an advocate in company law. So she built up a private practice and reputation as an advocate in company law. That is lawyer Judy Thongori. So she's very, very much and very, very much well known, especially when it comes to issues about women's rights. So she then started her own company where she championed women's rights. She's actually very, very much known in the country for championing the rights of women, especially where we've seen women's rights actually being violated or people not actually paying consideration to. She has actually been championing those rights. And in 2015, Kagi, lawyer Judy Thongori, she was chosen to be one of the 21 women who met for a conference at Harvard University. Just 21 of them, they met for a conference at Harvard University. She actually got that particular opportunity, which was very, very impressive and did the country proud. So she's extensively litigated on behalf of many family members, especially in family disputes. So she's very much known in as far as championing the rights of family. When you're having maybe family issues, animosities there, family feud, she has actually been taking the center stage in terms of championing those rights, and especially the rights of women in family matters, Kagi.
Yeah, she's a very prominent lawyer.
Yeah.
For many years, I have been following her.
Yeah.
But of late, she is very quiet. I don't know. But she is a very known and prominent lawyer who has agitated a lot of litigations in our courts.
Exactly.
And she is respected, as you begin by saying.
Sure. Especially when it comes to matters to do with the family. She was also very, very, she was in the limelight of the FIDA, Federation of Women Lawyers. Yeah, she played a very critical part in that particular organization.
And I believe our young lawyers have very many role models in the legal profession. Yeah, very many.
Sure.
Very professional, very respected, experienced lawyers whom they can really learn a lot from them.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. And Mr. Sila, there's one question here. I feel, I don't know whether it will be comfortable with you, but you see within what you do. Anasema, hi, I am Ngau from Malindi, saying, what do you do when you guarantee someone to acquire loan and the person refuses to pay their loans, and now your property shares are recovered? Let me repeat that. I am Ngau from Malindi, and the question is, what do you do when you guarantee someone to acquire a loan and the person refuses to pay their loans, and now your property shares are recovered?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ngao. When you guarantee a loan, when you guarantee something to somebody else,
yes,
it's actually saying that if at all he doesn't pay, I stand to pay. That is what we call a guarantee. That if at all he doesn't clear this debt, I'll be able to clear it. That's what we call a guarantee. So if at all you guarantee somebody and that person has failed to pay, it will be obligation to see you are paid because you have guaranteed that person. So you can't escape it because you have really stood as a guarantee for this person, and actually you have just said that if at all doesn't pay, I'll be his guarantor. And that's the purpose of being a guarantor. So it's very hard for him to escape it and say that I won't do anything. Normally, when it doesn't pay, it's obvious going to go to the next person.
Yeah, but for your mandate, you don't touch the guarantors.
Normally, when the recovery comes, if at all the guarantors have assets which have been given as surety, they're going to be attached. They're going to be attached. If at all they're in the list of the items, obviously they'll be attached. Yeah. Because that's what he's saying, that if it doesn't pay, take this other one. So those ones those will also fall on attachment.
Wow. So before you guarantee someone, you have to be very careful.
You need to be very careful.
Recovery is going to follow you.
It will always follow you.
You're also notified in advance.
That's what notified.
about-
The process is the same. They are not
process
really
is the same,
ambushed. It's notified in advance, and the process also goes the same way. That's what really happens on guarantee.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe just interested, what are some of the things that you go through during your work that you feel this is too hard for us in your profession?
Currently, let me say that the economy has not been easy. It has been hard. So we'll have a lot of properties on sale. I deal with more properties. I work for most of the banks on the recovery part of it. And obviously you'll see a lot of advertisement in newspapers by banks selling various properties. I think the big challenge right now is the market. The market is not very good, despite also we want to recover.
Yeah.
Because when the market is tough, also the selling is not easy. So the recovery process also takes time, it's very slow. So that's a big challenge we're getting right now because the market is not really open, but we are still trying to do what we can do for that one. The other part is I think the court process has no much problem because obvious if at all there's a problem, obvious we have the police assistants who would come in and assist the auctioneers to make sure the work is done properly. And those are challenges we've been having is rogue auctioneers, people who are not licensed but pretending to be auctioneers and harassing the public and doing things which are not there. In the long run, the name of the auctioneer has been painted as they are the ones who did this. But when you dig it on it, you'll find maybe when those people are not auctioneers, maybe some people did evictions without any orders and those kind of things. You'll find that the name of the auctioneer is being painted in the wrong way. But when you dig it further, you'll find that the people who did that process even are not licensed. But they were being hired by somebody, goons, and just said we are just auctioneers. And that's something, the process of identification, the process of knowing the person who has come across to you is very key. And that's why the Act usually spells it very out, that the auctioneers are supposed to identify themselves, they're supposed to do this and this, give a notice, and those kind of things.
And I was just curious, Buenasila, once maybe you've already started your exercise of the process now as auctioneer,
yes,
and maybe now the client and the debtor now comes and they say that now they want to do this thing out of maybe your process or maybe out of the court. How does it go?
Normally, I've mentioned about periods of days given. The 7 days, the 45 days notice, the 14 days notice. That is time for negotiation. Normally, if at all there's a negotiation between the two parties, you can stall the process anytime. They can just say, we have agreed. So can this matter be stalled for now? Okay. It's always there. So it's not cast on stone that we'll have to do this by this time. If at all both parties have come to a consent and have said we're supposed to attach goods 100,000, this guy, as I said, is between 10,000 per month. There's a consent written. Obvious, the auctioneer does not proceed with the process. Okay. Yeah, and that's why the purpose of also notification is there. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Our question today, Mr. Sila, is where are people's rights infringed during debt recovery? I would love to maybe to understand, even without mentioning the legal auctioneering services, where do you guys make sure that you don't infringe the rights of when you are recovering your debt? Or where maybe those rogue auctioneers really infringe the rights of people when they are recovering the properties or debt?
Recovery should be done in a humane way. Let me say that. It's not an issue. I've said it's not an issue of a fight because normally when we do these ones, it is not my money. Actually, it's not the auctioneer's money. It is somebody else's money whom the auctioneer is recovering. So the issue of using excessive force on attachment, I think those are the places which are not supposed to be done. But force sometimes come because maybe the other person also wants to use the same force, and that's why you have the clash between the two. But normally the process is supposed to be as smooth as possible, with clear understanding why it's been done. It is something which is done under law. It is not something just out of the blue. So I think people just need to know their rights very well. My right is to get a notice from the auctioneer. My right is the auctioneer to identify himself. My right, the property must be advertised. If at all, the evaluation must be done. So when those things are not done, obviously they might say that things are not being done the right way. There are also other issue about attachments, like when you do attachment, you're not supposed to attach beddings and clothes and personal items. Those things are not attachable. You're not supposed to attach those ones. So when a person will go to those extents, obviously infringing the rights to those people.
Yeah. It seems, I don't know, it seems as if your work is more attached to where there is dispute. And my question now is, for example, me and Mangicho, we own properties, and we feel need to dispose that properties even where there are no legal disputes.
Yeah.
Can we seek your services to come and help us to auction those properties?
Yes, we have also done that. We do also do that because we have been given a lot of properties to sell on private treaty. We normally do, and even you can advertise them in the newspaper and say we are going to sell these things by auction. Come and give your bids. There are people also who want to leave the country. They have their things there. They have their sofa sets, they have their TVs, they have their items, and they say, I want to sell them. They'll engage the service of the auctioneer. We'll take them to the yard, we'll advertise them for them, and they'll get a bidding, and they'll get their money.
So that is beyond debt recovery.
Yeah, it's beyond debt recovery, and we do a lot of that. A lot of that we do. Even for the bank business, you'll find that maybe somebody owes the bank some money, and they find they're not able to pay. Other than going to the auction process, they can tell the bank, can you assist us through the auctioneer to get a buyer for this property?
Wow.
It's done. It's somewhere we try to get a win-win situation for both of the parties, so that everybody can go home smiling and see that maybe we don't have a lot of bruises here and there. So it's something which is actually done.
Yeah, because
that's one of the services also the auctioneers usually also offer.
I think that is what many people don't know.
Yeah.
That you can also do some auctioneers even where there is no push and pull.
Yeah. In fact, of late, let's say the public is getting educated because we get most of those things. People want to dispose their things. They want you to put them on auction. They give to you because we have a yard. We have a place where we store them. We have a place where we can advertise them. And you'll find the public will come there and say that we can buy these things. Not all the things we sell there are because of debt. Some of them also, somebody just tell you, I'm moving to Mombasa and I don't need to carry these things with me. Where do I take them? Can you get me a buyer? Because you see, it's hard for him to look for a buyer for his TV, his radio, but he tell you, can you carry these things, send them to the store, do an auction for them, and we get his money, he pays just the commission, and everything is just done.
But of course you do due diligence to ensure that
the items you're selling actually belong to the person. That's true. That's one thing, because if at all you don't do it, you can end up having things which are not legally supposed to be there. So you must actually see that there's a good, the papers are well, the person is known, you have his details very well, so that nothing can backfire on you. Because when you sell something it's not his, obviously you'll have a problem on that matter.
There has been a lot of changes in policy in regarding to financial institutions. In this case, I regard you also as a financial institution. You find that the Ministry of Finance keep on changing the policies to manage the finances in our nation. Under your jurisdiction as auctioneers, do you feel a pitch on the changes of laws regarding to how you operate of current?
Let's say on the practice, nothing much, because when there is a change on the financial, maybe the interest and those kind of things that come there, they won't really affect the recovery part, because that's a private thing. You know, the auctioneers will come only when there is sort of push and pull.
Yes.
The other party is only, the two parties must look for ways of doing that. When interests go high, obviously you'll find that the debtors will want more time to pay the money, so they have to approach the financial institutions to talk to them and see what can be done. So obvious, the recovery is not there. So us, we will not really feel a lot of issues on those changes, because they'll not really affect the part of the recovery on their side, because we are not concerned about what happens in the finance bill there so much here.
Okay. And also, I was feeling as if that we need to educate public more on what you do. Maybe what things do you feel public need to know about you guys, but they have never known?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question. Some years ago, let me say that the Auction License Board used to go around the country I happen to have been being a member of the auctioneering licensing board one time, where we used to sit down, discipline and license auctioneers. I've sat in that board as an auctioneer. We used to go around and like when we have open days, the court open days, because we have court open days like even in Nakuru, where we can let the public know that what do we do and what is our role and how can we assist each other. There are those forums which used to be there. Of late, they're not so much, but I think we need to encourage to be done more. We have had forums like this ones where we are engaging through the media, which also is good. I know some of my colleagues also have done a forum like this in various stations.
Yes.
Just to let the public know that we are there, but we are not really the way they think maybe, but trying to sell what we actually do and also put into light what we are doing is supposed to be legal and supposed to be done right. So we've been having those open days, like the court open days. Auctioneers can come and showcase what they do, and questions can be asked, and also people can ask questions, what has happened here, what was my right here, and they can be educated in that process. And that one can be done through any court in Kenya, because auctioneers also work under the court, which is very easy.
Yeah.
And also forums like this ones also help the public to know we exist, and we have parameters of work, and this is the way the work is supposed to take place.
And suppose maybe a client was not satisfied with how things were being done.
Yeah.
What do they do?
There is the Auctioneers Licensing Board, and they say the Auctioneers Licensing Board role is to discipline and regulate the auctioneers, because they work under that board. That board is constituted by the Chief Justice. It has a magistrate, it has a person from the Law Society, it has a person from the Chambers of Commerce, it has a person from the Interior Government, it has auctioneers also sitting on that board. So it's a board which is constituted by various departments which also oversee those kind of things. So if at all you find that the auctioneer has not followed this process well, or you find he has infringed on your right, you need to write to the board and raise a complaint against that particular auctioneer, and then the board will take over the matter and to see that that matter is head to completion. And maybe if at all justice to be done, if at all one of the parties was not satisfied, to see that justice, because it's been the chair is normally a chief magistrate, appointed by the Chief Justice to see that. And also in the board there are magistrates who sit in that board, and we have also representatives from the Law Society. We have representatives also from the Interior Government, the Minister of Interior, and also Chamber of Commerce, and also auctioneers who also sit in that board to see that at least there is fairness on both parties.
It's a very good composition.
It's a very good composition, and it's usually constituted by the CJ. They sit for a period of 3 to 6 years, and then also there's always changes after that.
So you must have your rep within the board?
Yes, we have a rep here in the board. The auctioneers have a rep in the board.
How many?
We have four sitting in the board.
From maybe regions?
From various regions. We have one from, currently we have one from Nakuru, there's one in Mombasa, there's one in Nairobi, and there's one from Kisumu. So we have representatives from those regions so that we can also cover the whole country when there are issues to see what can be done.
Maybe on the issue of legal representation, are there some areas you guys from the auctioneers board or entity that you feel that there are some laws need to be changed to be able to make your work better?
Yeah, we are working on some amendments on the law to see that some areas to see how work can be done better, because normally you find there are some areas which are not very clear, like when you do a proclamation, somebody also has removed some things from there. The Act says we must start a process of suing that person. If at all I've come, I've served you a proclamation notice, and I proclaimed this TV, this radio, and those kind of things. And then I come after 7 days and I found that you have already hidden them and taken them to Oshago. The law says that you can be arrested, but the process is not very clear. So there are things we are looking at. How do we legalize that part? Because it's a crime to do that. Once a proclamation has been done, you're not supposed to interfere with those things. Once you interfere with them, now it can be another place. Now you can be arrested and be charged in court.
Or maybe the day you're coming for the items, the person
jamaa amefunga ameenda Ushago amedecide hata kweli. Sasa those amehama. So there are those challenges, but also we're looking at the laws, how we can see that process also goes very smoothly. And so we don't incur much cost. So when somebody's been attached also is already down.
True.
So when we save also those small costs also it can be better. And that's why I say cooperation from both sides is better because already you are down. So when you are down and you also want to add cost on it, it doesn't help.
I know we are moving closer to the end of the program, but before we get there, we have another session, a very short one, whereby we enlighten ourselves on some legal terminologies. At this juncture, we want to hear what Mangicho has for us on the legal terminology.
Absolutely. We have our legal terminology for today, and that is the term, Kagi. Inadmissible. Inadmissible. Yeah, that is our legal terminology for the day. If you happen to get into the court corridors, you have a probability or a possibility of actually interacting with this particular term, inadmissible, which means that which under the established rules of evidence cannot be admitted or received into evidence. So that term inadmissible means that which under the established rules of evidence cannot be admitted or received into evidence.
Yeah, so it means there are some things that they cannot be allowed in court as form of evidence.
As evidence, inadmissible. So the court will look at it, the judges or the magistrates will look at it, and they'll come to the conclusion that surely this one, no, we cannot really use it or actually get into that argument that it is actually evidence. So it is inadmissible.
Yes. I was calling you Wakil. I'm sorry. Is there sometimes, how do you make your representation in courts?
We make our presentation because in person most of the times. We can use a lawyer or we can appear in person. One thing, we are court officers and we normally appear ourselves most of the times. Or you can use a lawyer also at the same time. But most of the time, because we collect the court warrants from the courts, so we engage the court most often, collecting the court warrants from court, returning the court warrants to court. So we engage the court so much. And also sometimes seeking more applications, like maybe you're told I also need maybe a breaking order. Maybe you're going to a place and the place is locked. I can't break in unless I get a court order. So I must approach the court and seek for that order. And I must explain to the court why I'm seeking that order. Maybe to break in, to complete a task which has been given by the same court. So we engage the court in those matters mostly.
In this case, then, I believe that you must be very enlightened on court matters.
Well, most of the auctioneers are enlightened on court matters, that's true. Because they understand the procedures mostly. We work very closely with the courts and the lawyers, so we really understand most of the procedures of the court. We also very conversant in the civil procedure rules, because also you find the Auctioneers Act and the civil procedure rules, there are some laws also which have to meet here and there. So it's very important for us to understand both the civil procedure and also the Auctioneers Act at the same time.
So is there a likelihood that one can be sued as an auctioneer, maybe for how maybe they conducted themselves?
Yes. Yes. You can be sued, yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. They're not. They can't escape anything if at all they've done wrong. So they're not exceptionals. The law has to follow its course here.
And we are coming close to our program. We have 1 minute. Just in a second, you can talk to our audience, and maybe you can say something that they should be very careful when they are taking a debt. You can use that camera over there.
When taking a debt, let me say, when taking a debt, you need to look at a few issues. One is, am I able to pay this debt? That's the most important thing. When you take a debt, you should also look at, yes, I've been offered 100,000, but am I able to pay this debt with the interest rates are there and those kind of things? So you should gauge yourself before you engage yourself on debts, because most of the people you find in debts is because they engage themselves, they have not calculated their move very well, and the repayment issues, so you find they get a challenge in repayment. Number two is, what do I want to do with this debt when I take this money? Do I just pay school fees and then after that I don't have anything to do? I need to balance it very well, because once you take a debt and you sign for it, you must be ready to pay it. With the rates which are changing every day, I would say that let's be cautious even as we take those moves, even as we take those risks, that all shall be well. Lastly, the auctioneers are there to see that the work are done in the right way. Obviously, there's somebody who is being infringed or not another. That's why we need the service of the auctioneer, and we hope that we'll be able to offer this service in the right way, and so that this process can go smoothly without much push and pull here and there. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Mr. Benjamin Silla, who is from the Legacy Auctioneering Services. Are you category O or B?
I'm Class B.
Class B.
I'm a senior auctioneer.
I'm
regarded as one of the auctioneers in Kenya.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for coming over to our show.
Thank you very much for the time.
For sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
Personally, I've really learned a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Pleasure.
We'll be available if at all there's any clarifications or any issue concerning auctioneering.
Yes.
We'll be there.
Wow. Yeah, and with that note, we come close to our program today. The Legal Tuesday, Debt Recovery Laws was our topic. Mr. Benjamin Silla, Legacy Auctioneering Services. My name is Paul Kagi, wishing you a blessed day ahead.
Wow, of course, we are trusting that you've really enjoyed and that you've really been enlightened. Thank you so much for making time for being with us today. Of course, we'll see you again tomorrow for yet another edition of the Leadership Wednesday. My name is Mangicho Mwala. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.